Hey everyone, thank you for listening to the Pain and Panic Trip Planning Podcast. My name is Haley Ragsdale, and I'm here with my brother Owen Rederer.
Hey y'all.
We're a sibling duo who loves everything Disney, especially the theme parks. I'm a travel agent affiliated with Academy Travel, and I would love to help you plan your next Disney vacation. So reach out to me at haley.ragsdale at academytravel.com to start planning your next dream vacation at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Universal, Adventures by Disney, Disney Cruise Line, and so much more. So last week we talked about our top 10 favorite Disney movies, kind of discussed back and forth how we differed and things like that. This week we are talking all about Run Disney.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Ron Disney!
So those of you that are watching it on YouTube, you can see that we're wearing two of our marathon finisher hats. Woo woo! So a little bit of background on our experiences with Run Disney. I've done the Dopey Challenge, which we'll talk about what all the challenges are, and all that jazz 3 times. Owen did it with me this last time, so the 2025 marathon weekend. I've done the Disney Princess Half Marathon Challenge twice. And then I've done the Star Wars one when they still had the Star Wars races. I did the Star Wars races the last year they did them. Jack and I actually did them together. So that was fun. But yeah. Oh, and anything you want to add before we kind of dive into Run Disney?
Yeah, I mean, this January when we did the Dopey Challenge for the marathon weekend, that was my first and only time doing Disney races, and let me tell you, it was a lot more magical than you would think. It was amazing. So get ready for a fun episode.
Oh yeah, I feel like when I tell people about the Disney races and things, they're like, "Well, that's crazy." Like all the challenges and things, but
Yeah.
they're a blast. They're a good time.
hmm
Um, it's really the best place, in my opinion, to run a marathon or a half marathon or whatever
Oh,
distance because they have so much going on during the race. Like, you don't get bored. They've got characters. There's plenty of places to use the bathroom. They have water stops. Um, it's really
snack
pretty
stops.
magical.
Yeah, it's
Snack
incredible.
stops. It really is. Okay, so let's talk about what is Run Disney. So Run Disney is basically the running affiliate for Disney World, Disneyland. I think they even have some in Paris and things too. But Walt Disney World is where they have most of the races. That's where the big marathon weekend is. And kind of the reason why Walt Disney World has the marathon is because they own so much land that they don't really have to get approval from the state or the city or anything like that in order to close down the roads and in order to have the marathon.
Yeah.
Because they own the land, so they can do whatever they want. Whereas in Disneyland, for example, they have to work with the city of Anaheim in order to shut down the roads and all that kind of stuff. So there was a small period of time where they didn't have the races in Disneyland, and they just recently started doing the Disneyland races again, which is really exciting. That's definitely one of my goals, is to get out to Disneyland and do the Dumbo Double Dare. Because I love Dumbo, so
And they have the Halloween one, right?
yeah, the Halloween one's new. They used to have,
Mhm.
when they were doing the Star Wars races, they had the dark side and the light side, and one was at World and one was at Land. It was pretty
Oh,
cool. Yeah, and they were kind of back to back. It was pretty interesting. Um, but yeah, so let's kind of dive into the different race weekends. Before we do that, races wise, there's a couple different distances that you hear a lot from people who are runners, things like that. So 5K is going to be your shortest distance. That's 3.1 miles. A 10K is going to be 6.2 miles. Half marathon is 13.1, and then a full marathon is 26.2 miles. So those are the 4 distances that you'll hear a lot with the Run Disney, within the Run Disney community. So the big one, obviously, is Walt Disney World Marathon Weekend, which is the one we both did back in January. It's typically the first weekend or second weekend in January, and that has a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon. So there's also challenges with each of these weekends. I feel like this is gonna be a lot of information. So,
so get ready.
yeah, right. Owen, jump in when you want. Um, But like I said, 5K, 10K, half and full. So you can do one race, or you can also sign up for like the challenges. And we'll talk about registration and some tips and tricks with that too, because it can be very stressful. Like it's almost more stressful than the actual race.
Yeah.
But with marathon weekend, you've got the Dopey Challenge, which is doing all 4 races, which is what Owen and I did this past January. And then there's also the Goofy Challenge, which is the half marathon and the full marathon, so Saturday and Sunday, which is what I'll be doing next marathon weekend, so 2026. Um, but it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. Um, Owen, anything you want to add before I move into Princess half marathon weekend?
The Disney Marathon weekend is super cool. Honestly, one of my biggest bucket list, things was always to run a marathon, and it was one of those things that always seemed very impossible. Even with my previous history with running, like I've ran cross country, and I had ran races like 5Ks in the past, but marathon seemed pretty crazy. But you know what? They give you a training regimen online, and they give a lot of good inspiration and encouragement. And once you're there, it is the most incredible experience of your life. You won't want to stop running. Like once you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta finish this. I gotta see what's at the end of this finish line. Um, no, the races are incredible. And as we dive into the other challenges, don't be surprised if I let out little girl screams, because I'm excited to try the other races. I'm excited, so I'll be fangirling a little bit as we go. So don't be surprised if I let out little girl screams as I get excited for these other races, because I've never done them before. And trust me, I want to. So I'm going to be getting excited just listening to what these other races are about. So
That's fair. They are pretty exciting. Okay, so let's talk about some of these other race weekends. So in January, Walt Disney World Marathon weekend. In February, you've got the Disney Princess half marathon weekend. Um, so that is a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. And in the past, they've done like yoga and things too. Like I think the last time I did it, you did yoga in front of the castle on Thursday, and then you could do the 5K Friday, the 10K on Saturday, and the full or the half marathon on Sunday. And they have the fairy tale challenge during that, which is the 10K and the half marathon. Um, so that one's always a lot of fun. It's very like princessy. Like you'll see a lot of the princesses. Like the characters can be different depending on the race weekend that you do. Usually during marathon weekend, you see a lot of the like classic Disney characters and things like that. And then princess weekend, you're gonna see the princesses and the princes and things like that. Usually. Um, then in the spring, they do springtime surprise weekend. Um, so Springtime Surprise is a lot of fun. They do something. This is when they used to have like the Star Wars one, but they'll do something different every year. So this year, it's a celebration of heroes. And so
yes.
it's a 5K, a 10K, a 10 miler, and then the challenge, which I think is the 10K and the 10 miler. Um, but it's got like Baymax, Hercules, Mrs. Incredible, and Groot are like the 4 big ones.
Yeah.
Last year, I know like Figment was one of the big ones, and then they did like a Pixar surprise one year where they had like Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, things like that. So they do something different every spring when they do that one.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing is with not only just with each challenge, they have different themes and they have different characters to go with each medal and each race, but also just like each year with the different races, they change the theme. So like this year for the marathon weekend, I lucked out a lot because the theme was like a retro style animation Disney. And so, I can kind of show you on the medals. So this is the Dopey Challenge medal that we both got. You can see in the style of the medal, it is very older style animation. And I think that was super cool. The color schemes were a lot more muted, like the older generation, and obviously in the eyes you can see it. But they do that every year. They change the theme every year to something new, and so every year, if you were the type of person to run it every year, um, you always have something new to look forward to. So,
Yeah, for sure. A couple of years ago, it was like 90s themed for marathon weekend. It was super cool.
I bet that was
It
awesome.
was it was awesome. I was kind of sad. I want to say it was the year I was pregnant, so I wasn't doing it, but
Oh,
I was like, oh, or it was like right after I had Lucas or something like that. Um, okay, so then the other one at Walt Disney World, you've got Wine and Dine Weekend, which is
oh,
typically either end of October, beginning of November. I know I want to do Wine and Dine so bad. A
gotta
lot
do
of
that. Yeah.
times, Wine and Dine, I know, Wine and Dine is like the villains, typically, is where you're going to see more of the villains' characters, things like that. But like this year, for example, it's the weekend of October 23rd to the 26th. And they've got, it looks like the 5K is Mushu is the theme, the 10K is Olaf, and then the half marathon is Lady and the Tramp, which is an interesting choice. Um, and then the challenge is the fairy godmothers from Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the half marathon and the 10K. So it's fun. There's also a post race party at during Wine and Dine weekend. I know, right? So after the half marathon, I want to say it's when Epcot closes. Let me double check. But it's like, yeah, so start time is 10 p.m. the day of the half marathon. So you run the half marathon, then you go do your whatever you want to do during the day, and then 10 p.m. at Epcot is
Oh,
the like party. So it's like an after hours party for people who were a part of race weekend. It
that
looks like a
sounds so
blast.
awesome.
I know. That's my next one that I really want to do. But those are the four big race weekends at Walt Disney World. Disneyland right now has the Disneyland Half Marathon weekend, which is the one that has the Dumbo Double Dare. So you've got a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. If you do the 10K and the half, I believe, I'm double checking. I'm pretty sure it's the 10K and the half marathon. You get the Dumbo Double Dare Challenge medal.
That
And
makes
then there's also the Halloween half marathon weekend, which is like brand new. I want to say they did it for the first time last year, and then this year will be the second time they're doing it. But it looks really fun and really cool because Disneyland does a really good job at Halloween. They have like Oogie Boogie's Bash and all that kind of stuff. So they're big in Halloween there. Um, so it looks like a blast. There's also typically a lot of different virtual series. So right now they have, or they had at Christmas time, they had the Run Disney virtual 12Ks of Christmas. And so those are ones that you like sign up online and then you do your runs at home and they send you the medals. Um,
yeah.
it's pretty fun. It's cool. It's a good way to get the medals if you don't necessarily like you see the medals and you're like, oh my gosh, I want that medal. And you don't necessarily have the money to go to Disney World and to pay the registration fees and all that kind of stuff. It's a great
Yeah.
way to still get those medals, get a little taste of Disney at home. They also had a Run Disney virtual Love on the Run 14 miler. And then they usually do like a summer series. So right now on the website, they've got Run Disney virtual series down for that summer series. So they haven't really released. Oh no, they have released details. Oh yeah, so the summer series, it's three different 5Ks, and you can do the Happily Ever After challenge, which is all three. But it was ride themed. So you've got the Pirates of the Caribbean 5K, the
Yeah.
Jungle Cruise 5K, and the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad 5K, which looks pretty cool.
I was gonna say I saw that on
You're
Instagram earlier.
Yeah, you're still able to sign up for the virtual, the like challenge. So doing all three, but it looks like the individual ones are sold out right now. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what they have this year to keep up with the Run Disney calendar and what races and things they're releasing and all that kind of stuff. I highly suggest following them on Instagram and Facebook. There's also a Facebook group that's like the Run Disney group, and people are always chit chatting in there. It can get a little like people are kind of mean sometimes, but I know, I know. I'm like, why are you being so
I
hateful? Um,
Yeah, that was crazy when we were because we were I think we were getting ready for the marathon like day because like we were going to the marathon the start of it, right? And there was this guy who would help people onto the bus and make sure that you're part of the Run Disney. And he was super nice. He was super cool. He was always, I think there was one day where he was a little bit late, and this woman sent the nastiest messages to the Facebook thing, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, that is mean."
Literally.
Some people really take their running that seriously. So
Yes. And like, I don't know, people will just get like kind of hateful in there, but I never post in there. But it like, people will remind you, like, who's ready for registration tomorrow? And then you're like, oh yeah, marathon
yeah,
registrations tomorrow. So it's a great way to stay up to date on what is going on in the Run Disney community. And then you just kind of have to ignore all the haters.
yeah. Also, Haley, you did forget one of the coolest and most important challenges, the Coast to Coast challenge.
Oh, yeah. I did forget about the Coast to Coast challenge. So basically, if you do, um, like, say you did, like, how a lot of people do it is they'll do, like, one of the races during marathon weekend at Walt Disney World, and then the Disneyland half marathon is the same month. So a lot of times they'll go and do a race during Disneyland half marathon weekend, and then you can also get that coast to coast medal. So it's basically saying that you did a race on both coasts. And I'm pretty sure you just have to do two races within the same season. So the Run Disney season actually starts with Wine and Dine and it goes to Springtime Surprise. So
Which Wine
any
and
of
Dine is
those
in
within there.
Wine and Dine is in which one?
October or November typically.
Okay, yeah.
Um, so basically, it's like October to November is the start of the season, and then the end of the season is typically that springtime surprise, which I believe is in like April usually. I think it's actually like maybe this weekend, or it was just this past weekend. Like, I want to say people are getting ready for it. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, that's the hero one, right? I've seen a lot of posts for the hero one lately, so that would make
Yes.
sense.
Yes, so it's real close if it hasn't already happened. Okay, so that's a good rundown of all the different Run Disney races. Um, Now we're going to talk about kind of planning your first Run Disney race and some tips and tricks, especially for the registration process, which can be very stressful. Um, so, like we said, follow Run Disney on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to join the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. I highly recommend it. And then also the Run Disney website. Sometimes I'll just like check it, or I have all of the race registrations written down in my planner, just because I like to like watch as people are signing up because it can be so hectic. It's kind of entertaining to watch. Um,
Oh my
but
god.
let's talk about the registration process. So, how it works is you go onto the Run Disney website. Typically, registration opens at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. And so I always tell people to be on the race website about 30 minutes before that. So typically 9:30. If you're on by 9:45, you should be fine. But get on multiple devices. As soon as it opens for registration, I basically like hit refresh from like 9:59 until 10 o'clock. Um, and then as soon as that button pops up that's like register, click the button, and then it puts you in a virtual queue. So that's why I suggest having multiple devices open. Um, and some people are like, oh, it's so wrong to have multiple devices open and yada, yada, yada. I get it, but like, it's pretty random. You want to give yourself the best shot possible. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
Also, you're only
Um,
signing up for one race, or like you're only signing up one person, so it's like it really doesn't change anything. The other people are just
yeah,
underprepared, so that's their fault.
exactly.
They don't want to go to Disney
Exactly.
as bad as us. Sorry.
Exactly. But how the system does it. So basically, if you're in there before the queue opens and then you join it right when it's time, everybody that was in it ahead of time gets like random mixed up and then spit out into some kind of place in line, right? So if you're on it ahead of time, it's going to be totally random when you pop into that line. If you get on after the queue has already opened up, then you'll be put at the back of the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, so give yourself the best shot possible in that initial raffle to where you are in the queue waiting for your spot before it actually goes live. Um, and then typically it pops up and it's like, you have more than an hour. And anytime I see more than an hour, I'm like, anxiety. My heart's like going a
Yeah.
little faster than it should be. But then sometimes it'll be like, you have 15 minutes, or it'll go down really fast. So if all your devices pop up and it's like more than an hour, don't lose hope. A lot of times it's not actually more than an hour and you'll get in more than
Yeah.
likely. There was one time I didn't get in, um, and that sucked, but I did Princess Weekend instead. So it wasn't like, I don't know. I feel like you can pivot. There's so many race weekends. If
Yeah.
you're really wanting to get into the marathon weekend and you don't, it's okay. It will be okay. You can also run for a charity. That's what I'm doing this year. I'm doing Goofy for the American Cancer Association. So you can always run for a charity or something like that too. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how that pops up. So then once you get out of the queue, you start registering. So be ready. Like that's the fastest I've ever typed in my entire life is whenever I'm like doing registration. If you already have your profile set up before you even get in the queue, it's going to save you a lot of time when you're putting in all your information. Um, Also have your credit card out and ready to go. You don't have that spot until it's completely gone through. So until you get that confirmation email, you aren't in. Um, which like the one year I didn't get into marathon weekend, I had gone through the entire registration process. I'd hit submit and then it was sold out at the very last second. It even like took money out of my bank account. Like it had like acted as if I'd paid, and then obviously I got refunded, but I was like that close, and it was disappointing, but it was okay. Um, so yeah, I think that's all the stuff, the like big registration tips and how tos, things like that. Um, oh, and anything to add on registration?
I mean, me personally, I've never registered for the race because Haley has done it for me. So I've never personally had to worry about it. But, as Haley's saying, just, be prepared and be ready to be diligent as you are signing up because, you have to think Disney is a fantastic place to do a race. It's incredible. So a lot of people are signing up for it. And so just be ready, be diligent, know what you're signing up for, like if you're wanting to do all the races, make sure you know that ahead of time. Or if you're just wanting to do Goofy or Dope or Goofy or just one of the races. And also, sometimes even if you don't get like the full Dopey challenge, like if you're wanting to do all 4 races, sometimes the registration can be open for other races still. Like you can just sign up for just the 5K, or you can sign up for just the Goofy challenge. Like there's other opportunities. And worst case scenario, you just go to Disney and you run around the parks. So you just run while there's other people there, and they're like, "Why are you running?" It's like because I want to. So who's gonna stop you?
Because I feel like it.
Because I feel like
Yeah,
it, and
no,
I'm
you
mad that I didn't get my registration. Blowing off
exactly.
steam.
Um, So we'll just pretend that we all got through registration. We've all got our spots. And so then the next thing you're going to be like is, oh my gosh, I just signed up for Dopey. How in the world do I train to run 48.6 miles? Um,
Oh,
I love the Jeff Galloway plans. So if you're on the Run Disney website, they actually have like training plans for each of the races. I don't do them super closely. Like a lot of their training plans, it'll be like 45-minute walk, 45-minute this during the week, and then you're doing, 10 miles on the weekend. A lot of times I will do like the 10 miles on the weekend, but I'll cross train on those like 45-minute workout days. So instead of running for 45 minutes, which I am a huge I think cross training is extremely important, because instead of just using those muscles that you use when you're running, you're using all your other muscles as well. And so you're less likely to injure yourself.
yeah,
Um, because if you're just running, you're just using those muscles, then those other muscles aren't getting any stronger. They're actually getting weaker, and you're more likely to injure them. Um, so I'm big on cross training. That's a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do um, some kind of hit workout that may still have running or has rowing or biking or something like that during the week, and then I'll do my longer runs on the weekend. But it is super important to get those miles in, get your body used to those miles. And especially with Disney, if you're planning on going to the parks after, do your long run and then still do everything you were planning on doing during your day. Like, don't go run 20 miles and then sleep the rest of the day. Because if you're planning on going to the parks after running the marathon, you need to get your body used to that.
Yeah.
Oh, and anything to add on training?
Yeah, I was going to say the hardest part about doing the races, specifically marathon weekend, is the fact that you're doing these races back to back. So
Mhm.
the obviously the marathon weekend is the one I've done, so I'll use that as the example. You do a 5K, 10K, half marathon, and a marathon, and it's in 4 consecutive days. So one day you do the 5, then you go on to do your park for the rest of the day. You sleep, you wake up the next morning, and you got to run again. Yeah. And so, honestly, after doing the training, like, the way that Haley put me through the training, because she really pushed my limits before going to Disney. But, the days where we would do, like even just like a small 5 mile run and then a 15 mile the next day, just having those consecutive runs, like practicing that is very important because it gets your body ready to recover faster and get ready. Also, number one tip is keep your body energized. Eat tons of food. One
Yeah.
of the number one things is your body burns so much energy as you're running. And so carbs, like carb load while you're racing, while you're practicing, just, keep that energy up. And water, of course. But yeah.
Yes, 100%. And we'll talk about fueling too. Also, if you're somebody who struggles with like actually getting out and going for a run, like you're somebody who will make up an excuse and be like, "Oh, I'm not feeling it today. I don't know that I'm gonna run." Sign yourself up for races in your local area. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot, especially in the month of December and November. You've got all sorts of holiday races and things like that. Um, so it's a great way to kind of keep yourself held accountable, basically.
Yeah. Because you're paying money for those too. So, you know, that is a big part of it. That was one of the biggest encouragers for me when we were doing is because we had signed up for 2 different races at home before we were going to Disney, and just having those milestones in there, something else to train for, it made it feel like I had less time to train. So it made me feel like I had to be more responsible. Otherwise, I was gonna, end up breaking down in the middle of a race. But signing up for half marathons, 5K, 10Ks, just things to keep you motivated, keep you going. Because race days, honestly, that is the biggest motivator. Because you're in that moment, you're getting the medal, you're surrounded by people who are also running. It's the best way to keep you inspired as you get ready to go on that Disney running journey. So
Yeah, for sure. And try out any, like, okay, so we'll talk about fuel and things now. Try out any kinds of fuels, goos, things like that that you plan to use during race weekend before race weekend.
yeah,
Because you don't want to do a goo and then be like, oh my gosh, my belly. Um, there's so many things that can happen. You can cramp up, all sorts of stuff. I highly suggest getting a hydration pack if you're doing like one of the longer race weekends. Um, Makes it easier to carry your water, carry your snacks, all that kind of fun stuff. Um, Anything else on fueling or training? Oh,
yeah. I mean, I will say, having the backpack, like the hydration pack, was really nice because you get to choose when you get to drink water and fuel. Like, let's say you bring some of your sports beans or your gels or something like that. But I will say, one thing that Run Disney does really well is their checkpoints. So, having places where they have water stations and Powerade stations and goo stations, they hand out fuel for you constantly on the races. I remember for just the marathon, they had 2 different banana stations. They had a water station at every mile, I'm pretty sure. Uh, and with that, they also had Powerade at every one of those stations as well. So they are constantly fueling you. And the sports beans, that's like, I think that's their sponsor. Sports beans are great, by the way. This is not a sponsor, but theirs is. I do love sports beans. This is not a sponsor.
But hey, Sports Beans, if you want to sponsor
If
us,
you want to sponsor us,
let
I
us
wouldn't be
know.
opposed. I love sports berries. Is that good enough?
Yeah, that was wonderful. I mean, I think we're in for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, they have everything on the races. Like I always say when I'm running a Disney race, as soon as I start feeling like, oh, I could really use some water, all of a sudden there's a water stop. Or if I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, a banana would be great right now, there's, somebody holding a banana out for me as soon as I run around a corner. And I'm like, okay, well, Disney knows. They just know.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we got through registration, we got through training. Now it's race week, or we're planning for
Woo!
race week, right? So, where do you want to stay? All sorts of things like that. I highly suggest staying on property because the races are really early. The marathon this year started at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh
I
yeah,
did not want to be battling traffic at, 3 in the morning to try to get to Epcot in order to get in for the race. Because they're also closing down roads and all that kind of stuff. So I highly suggest staying on property. Doesn't really matter where, any of the resorts. And then when you get there, a lot of times, whatever resort you're at will have like a board that has what time pickups are at, what time the expo's at, all that kind of stuff. So that way okay, the bus is running from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. I'm going to try to be on one of those first buses and be at the bus stop at 3 a.m. Definitely get there toward the front end of that time frame if you want to be safe. You never know what's going to happen. Sometimes the bus drivers get lost. Like there's so many things that can happen because the buses that they get for Run Disney are not Disney World buses. They're
yeah,
typically hired out from another company like Mears or something like that. So you've got a lot of people that aren't really super experienced with Walt Disney World and the road closures, things like that. So I usually aim for one of those front times just to be safe. Um, but it makes things a lot easier if you just stay on property. Let Disney take care of all the things. So typically the first thing that you do when you get there for a Run Disney weekend is you got to go to the expo, which is going to have your bibs and all of that kind of stuff. There's also the merch kind of area. So the bib pickup and the merch area are two separate areas. They now have a virtual queue for merch, especially for that first day. So it kind of changes depending on the weekend. I want to say this past time, it was like, I don't remember what time I had to hop in the virtual queue, but that was in that Run Disney guide that they had at the resorts and all that kind of stuff. So as soon as we
yeah,
got there on the first day, I was able to look at that and figure out, okay, I gotta be on at 7 a.m. to get our virtual queue to get into the merch area.
yeah.
Um, and so it's just like any other virtual queue at Walt Disney World. You go in the app, you pull up virtual queues, and then you click join at the certain time. Um, but they do that for the merch area because it can get super busy. And a lot of the stuff can go pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, especially if there's stuff we know we want, we usually try to do that first thing. Go to the merch and then go pick up our packets and all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of fun. They have the merch area, packet pickup where you pick up your bibs and your t-shirts. They've got a lot of photo ops. They've also got the like expo that has, sparkle skirts and a lot of other Disney affiliated running gear, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Typically, like, say if we were doing marathon weekend, we would typically get there on Tuesday, go to Disney Springs Tuesday night, go to the expo Wednesday morning, is normally how we do that.
Yeah, and the expo, going for the first time in January was absolutely like a surreal experience. They have, with the shops that she was talking about, it's just a ton of, like she said, Disney affiliated running gear and little small businesses that have their own takes on Disney running merch. But the actual Run Disney uh, expo area, I guess, where they sell the shirts and the pins and everything. It was incredible. And, for me, I made it a goal to get every single one of the I Did It pins. And here, I'll show you that right now. So for any of you on YouTube, you can see this. These are the Run Disney pins I had. So obviously it's got your 5K, 10K, half, and marathon pins, and then the Goofy and Dopey challenge pins. Let's see if I can get this pulled out here. Actually, no, my hands are too sweaty. There's my bib. But then you have the marathon weekend pin, and they also have metal pins. So just super, super cool pins. They are a tad expensive, but in my opinion, as a pin collector, they were definitely worth it. They also have little banner pins that you can get. I don't have it on here because it's on my running pack. I have it pinned on there. But going in there, seeing all the pins, seeing all the shirts, seeing all the different affiliated merch that you can get for it, it really is incredible. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience. But it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences that you want to make a multiple times in a lifetime experience. You know what I mean? So,
Yes, 1000%.
oh,
Um,
God.
so
I don't
yeah,
know
the
if I'm doing
expo's great. Oh no, don't drop your pins. Don't drop your pin board.
We'll wait till after the episode to put that back up there. We're gonna have a blank spot for a while.
That's fine. That's okay. Your
My head
ears
will
cover
cover
it.
it. Yeah.
So that's the expo. I kind of this past time it was a lot busier than it has been in the past, and took us a lot longer to get through. So I kind of wish we had spent more time at the expos. We went to Hollywood Studios after the expo, and I kind of wish we had just done the expo that day and then like Disney Springs or something, because I didn't feel like we really got to explore the expo a lot.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Uh, so then you've got the races after that. We talked about staying on property, getting there at the front of the on one of the first buses. I highly recommend. Um, Anything on Expo or anything like that before we really get into the race weekend, Owen?
No, I think we're ready to talk about the races.
Okay, so packing wise, let's talk about that first. So if you're like us, you love a good costume. So I love Disney costumes. So that's some of the stuff that I absolutely have to pack as my costumes. I also suggest running in your costume before you run it in the race. Or at least the like inner parts of your costume, right? Like your shorts and your tank top or sports bra or whatever it might be. Not necessarily the tutu and all that. You can if you want to. But you figure out where you're going to be chafing and things like that. Super important.
Yeah.
Other things to make sure you have: Band-Aids, Tylenol, hydration packs, goos, all that kind of stuff that you're going to need running wise for during the race and for recovery. Especially because you're going to be going to the parks after that as well. I usually have multiple pairs of running shoes and then also comfortable park shoes. Your marathon weekend bag is going to be big.
Yeah. You got a lot of stuff to pack.
Yes, lots of things to pack. Anything else that you can think of that you absolutely would want to pack?
I mean, honestly, like anything, like it's very important to experience like what your issues are when you're running beforehand before you get to Disney, right? So making sure that you have proper underwear that assists you while you're running, and socks that aren't going to rip or chafe you as you're running. Making sure you have shoes that are broken in but not too broken in before you run. And even like small things like I don't know if this is like out of the PG lines, but like nipple chafing. That's a thing. I mean, when you're racing, I mean, I'm sure some of you have experienced it when running long distances. It's a real thing. So just have preparations for the issues that you experience beforehand.
Yep.
It's
That's
very
part of why
important.
training is so important.
Yeah, you don't want to get in the race and then be like, "Oh man, this sucks." Like I am experiencing something I haven't experienced before, and I don't know what to do. That is not fun.
Exactly.
But I will
Exactly.
say, if you do run into that issue, they have plenty of medical tents set up all over the course. So if you do run into one of those issues, you have backup there.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about corrals. So There are a lot of corrals. There are a lot of people that run Disney races. I think Marathon Weekend this past year, it was up to Corral G. So it was A through G, I
Yeah.
think. Is that right?
Yeah, because I
Um,
was in G before we got it switched.
yeah, that was a good time. Um, but so when you sign up for a Disney race, you don't have to do it the day of registration, but there's usually a deadline to submit a proof of time. I highly suggest submitting a proof of time because that's how you're going to get into a front corral. Sometimes, on the off chance you don't submit a time, they'll put you in a higher corral. Um, that's typically not likely, so better safe than sorry. And then, if you do end up in a back corral and you shouldn't be in a back corral, if you did submit a time, then you can go to like the race help desk at the expo and get moved up to that front corral, which is what we ended up doing with Owen.
Yeah.
So he went from being in corral G up to corral C with me.
Oh,
So that's super important, because the way it works, obviously, corral A is going to go first. They're going to send them in waves, and then B, C, so on and so forth. So if you're in corral G, you're one of the last corrals to go. And they try, the reason they ask you to submit a time is because they try to like put you in waves and corrals with people you would be finishing with. So with people that are going to be running at your pace or walking at your pace. The balloon ladies are the last ones to start, and they walk a 16-minute mile for the entire race. If they pass you, then you will get swept. So if they pass you and you don't get in front of them by the time the sweepers tell you, hey, you got to get in front of them by this point, you don't make it in front of them, you get swept, put on a bus, taken back to the finish line
yeah.
on a bus. So you don't get to finish the race. So when you're in a more forward corral, you have more space between you and the balloon ladies. So for example, the marathon started at 4:30. I want to say we started at like 4:45, 4:50.
Yeah,
And then I
we
want to say the balloon ladies didn't start till like 6 a.m. or something.
yeah, I think we started at 4:45 and then the G corral, which was the one I was supposed to be in, literally started an hour later.
Yeah.
It was really because that's the back corral, and that whole hour gives you such a nice buffer because you got to think you also want to stop and take pictures with characters, and you want to give yourself time to run at the pace that you need to run at. You don't want to rush it. You're in Disney World. You want to enjoy the race, so if you can get that proof of time, it is very important. I think usually they look for like 2 hours and 10 minutes, right? Or like that's like
For
a for getting
for
into C corral.
C corral. Yeah. But if
Which
you're
is one
like
of the
2:30 or 2:50 or something like that for a half marathon time, you may end up in D or E. Like it's not like we got to do 2:10 or you're going to be in G. Like they put
yeah,
you
yeah,
in certain corrals based on your projected finish time. Um so there's only one time I was in a back corral. Normally I'm C or above. There was one time I was in G and I was with Jack and he didn't submit a time, and we were doing the Star Wars half marathon, and it was brutal because okay, so my husband Jack has really long legs. And so when you end up in one of those back corrals, there's a lot of walkers. So we were swerving in and out of people the whole time. Like we ended up doing 15 miles in a half marathon because we were swerving in and out of people the whole time. And he has such long legs that he could never open up his stride. So like his calves and his hips were killing him by the end because he had to do like a little run instead of being able to like
yeah,
actually run.
yeah. No, that sounds awful. I would have lost my
Yeah.
mind in that G corral. So very good.
Yeah, no, I can't convince him to do another Run Disney race because of that.
Honestly, that does sound like torture, especially for someone as tall as Jack. So
Yes. So definitely submit a time. It's very important. But that's how the corral setup works. So when you get there, you have an understanding. Also, like say we hadn't been able to get Owen's corral switched. I was in C, he was in G. If I had wanted to go back and be with him, I could go back in corrals, but you can't go up in corrals. So C can go to G, G can't go to C, basically. Um, I think that's everything on the corrals. So during the races, we talked a little bit about this, but you've got characters, hydration stops. You run through the parks, which is awesome. It's one of the most magical experiences ever, especially when you turn that corner in Magic Kingdom and you see the castle and then everybody's cheering on the side. It's pretty awesome.
It is.
Plus side of running through the parks is you also have bathrooms in the parks that are open. Um, you also have, if you're doing the marathon, once the park opens, if you want to hop on like a ride or something, you can. So you can hop on rides, you can stop for characters, you can stop in the bathrooms, you can stop for snacks. A lot of people will stop in Epcot, grab a drink, and then run across the finish line with their drink. Um, so as long as the park's open, you can do anything that you would normally do in the parks during operating hours. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, big question, Owen. Post-race recovery, go to the parks or no?
Of course, you go to the parks. What do you mean? Okay, I have to say, one of my favorite parts of the marathon weekend was after the dopey challenge, or like after doing the marathon and getting the dopey medal, walking around Epcot and like the workers just being like, "Oh my gosh, congratulations! That's so impressive." I hate to be the show off, but it makes me giggle. It makes me feel so like special, and that's what Disney's all about, is feeling the magic. And you know what? Wearing that medal, feeling that achievement is unmatched. Absolutely one of the best experiences of my life. So,
Yes,
yeah,
I totally
definitely those
agree.
parks.
Yes, totally agree. And you don't have to go every day. Like when we did the Dopey Challenge, we went on 5K day, we went on 10K day, and then like half marathon day, we didn't go to the parks, we went to Disney Springs, ate, and then went to bed early the night before the marathon. But then like partied it up at Epcot after the marathon. So
Yep.
listen to your body. If you're like, I'm exhausted, go back to your hotel and go to sleep. Like, you're there for the races. You're there to, have that accomplishment. You never know what your body's going to do. So give yourself the best chance at success,
Yeah.
is my advice. But also have a good time. You're in Disney World. You're running in
Yeah.
Disney World. Okay, it's a race, but it's not a race, people. Like, you're not going to be the number one runner probably at Run Disney. Like, let's be real here. Those people are running like 5-minute miles for a marathon. There ain't no way.
Yeah. The two most important parts are the accomplishment and the experience, like enjoying the experience. I mean, there's a lot of things you can't control when you're, at Disney and in these races. So just take advantage of the positives and enjoy yourself. I mean, you are in Disney World. I would much rather be sitting in that corral waiting for the race to start than going to work in an hour. So,
Amen.
yeah.
Amen. Okay. Anything else you want to add on Run Disney? I feel like this
I
has been
don't
a
think
pretty long
so.
episode. So
Yeah.
sorry, we got a lot of information. But I hope this was helpful. I hope this got you excited to maybe plan a Run Disney trip. Um, but yeah, that's it for this week. Um, Thanks for joining us. We hope you're one step closer to planning your magical Disney vacation. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. I don't know what we're doing for next week's episode. We'll
Cool.
figure that out later this week.
Yep.
We'll figure it out. Uh, if you're in need of help planning your next Disney vacation, I'd love to help you. So contact me at haley.ragsdale at academytravel.com. Follow me on Instagram at haley.ragsdale and Owen at O_Redder. Until next time, bye-bye.
See ya.